Coming up on today's show.
They want ideas and leadership and strategy from me, but they also want to shoot holes in it. And so when you kind of, when you're that artist piece of you sticks your neck out and is vulnerable, when you present something, you have to also be ready to invite the criticism and welcome it, because they mean positive things by it ultimately.
Welcome to the show that helps you make the successful journey from founder to CEO. Hear from dynamic, inspiring, and successful founders as they share their insightful stories and practical tips that make becoming the CEO more fun, stress-free, and easier to build the company and life of your dreams. Now, please welcome your host, Todd Uterstadt.
Welcome back to the show that's committed to helping you become a better leader. Now, before we get started, just a quick thanks to those of you who continue to leave a 5-star rating and review for the show on iTunes. I can't thank you enough. It really helps the show grow. So we welcome your honest rating, and all you have to do is just click on the artwork on your phone, and you'll see a hyperlink. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate it. So today's guest is disrupting the lawn care industry. Yep, you heard me right. The lawn care industry. Wait until you hear how he's doing this. And in addition to his really interesting company, Kelly Giard shares some powerful leadership insights that I know you're going to find helpful in your business. In the studio with us today is Kelly Giard. Kelly founded Clean Air Lawn Care in 2006 and has been leading the way as the CEO ever since. Clean Air Lawn Care is disrupting typical lawn care because it provides lawn care services using solar-powered electrical equipment and organic fertilizers that are safe for your children and pets. With 175 people on the team and growing, Clean Air Lawn Care under Kelly's leadership has grown to over 50 plus franchise locations across the United States. Kelly, wow, it's incredible to talk with you. You've been very successful. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Todd.
So Kelly, you were covered in Entrepreneur Magazine, Fast Company, Turf, Market Watch, and many others, and you obviously have brought some great innovation to the landscaping world. What's it all about? What is Clean Air Lawn Care's powerful promise of value?
We function, I like to think, on a higher level than just money with what we do, just in terms of driving profits. What we try to do also, at the time we started the company, 10 to 12% of the nation's air pollution was coming from small engines. And so we took a look at this with our solar-powered technology and figured out a way to compete and to drive profit with our business model at zero emissions. And that's, what we believe one day, hopefully we see that 10 to 12% shrink to zero with our leadership. We obviously can't, mow every lawn, but we hope that people adopt our practices, and we're starting to see that.
Oh, Kelly, this is an amazing story because you are proof that you can do well and help the society and help our ecology and make a profit at the same time, right?
Yeah, that's what we're about.
I love it. So, Kelly, where are you located? Where have you created this great company at?
We're in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is home of a lot of great companies. The one people probably know best is New Belgium Brewing, the makers of Fat Tire.
Oh, yes.
It's also Colorado State University. It's about an hour north of Denver, a beautiful place.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully you've got the mowing contracts for a lot of those organizations too. So Kelly, everyone loves hearing about the startup stories of founder and CEOs, and you have a really great story to tell. So help us understand, how did you start this whole idea of being ecologically friendly and making a profit in the landscaping industry, which hasn't seen a lot of innovation in a long time?
Yeah, we've all mowed the lawn and or even had a little business of our own, and it's something that has been pretty static. It's a bit of an antiquated industry, and really, I sketch this out. I wake up in the middle of the night, productive fairly frequently, still do it. But I woke up in the middle of the night one night in 2003 and scratched this out on a legal pad, and it sat there for 2 years, and then I hired an intern to research it. And in 2006, we just basically tried to put together one truck to see if we could make it work. And really what happened is the public, the customers started driving it. They started pushing me and the business forward very quickly. And by 2007, it became pretty clear we were in a position to either go big with it and kind of ride it out, or let somebody else do it. And so we decided to jump in and take the opportunity.
So Kelly, help me understand something. So you had people pushing you to do this. What exactly did that mean? Did they say, hey, we want to, what did they say to you?
They told me that, they just loved the concept. They loved the quiet. They loved the lack of smell. I would compare it to, if you can remember, there used to be smoking in restaurants, and then it got largely outlawed. And then, once in a while you would come back to a smoking restaurant and you would have this physical reaction to it. And that's what our customers started to see. They started to put all of it together. It's kind of a simple concept, but nobody really pushed it or explored it or innovated it. And once it got put out there, it's one of these that immediately the lights come on with the consumer. And so people from all over the United States started calling us about it, whether they could, do you have a franchise that we could buy, or how do you do it so I can go do the same thing? That sort of push.
Well, I love it because you were responding to what the marketplace was asking for, right?
That's right. Yeah. And we didn't really know until we put it out there. And by 2008, the whole green movement had become pretty popular. But in 2005 and 6, when we were first exploring it, it was not. And so in that regard, we got lucky with a big opportunity.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm sure it's not just luck. I'm sure it's a lot of hard work too. So help us all understand one detail about this that I want to make sure we all get clear about in our own minds. So when you say you're zero emissions, does that mean you plug a lot of your equipment in, say, for example, overnight and then use it? Or do some of your equipment actually have mini solar panels on it? How does that work, Kelly?
Yeah, we do it both ways. So we'll take, like Fort Collins, for instance, has a green energy option with its utility program with the city. And so you can opt to use wind power in the city of Fort Collins at your shop or residence. And so that's how we'll handle the wall piece of it, because our equipment does need to be plugged in overnight to make sure when we leave the shop, it is charged. As it depletes over time during the day, take, for example, 2 lithium batteries that are being used in a blower, let's say, one's in use, the other's being charged. We charge with our solar system, and our solar system is basically a generator, a solar generator that's on top of our truck. And so it's a PV panel that goes to a battery array for storage and then is hooked to an inverter. And so we'll just plug our equipment into the inverter, like similar to the wall, and use our solar on the go during the day. And that allows us to operate continuously and to generate a lot more profit that way.
So you then have a mobile energy station to power your equipment.
That's right. Yeah, we don't use gas at all with our mowing and blowing and trimming operations.
I love that, Kelly. That is just incredible. Mobile energy for your equipment. That's really great. Well, energy is what drives a lot of businesses, right? And we know that if you can save on that, not only will you save money, but all the other great benefits that you mentioned before about noise pollution and air pollution. So how did you build this business? Founder and CEOs always struggle with this idea of what financial vehicles they're going to use. And I know that you found a lot of success in franchising, but what did you do in the beginning? Did you put all this on your credit card? Did you borrow money from friends? Or maybe there was a friendly angel investor in Fort Collins. How'd that work out for you?
In 2007, like I mentioned, we were faced with that kind of go big or go away decision. It was clear that those were the two options. And so when we decided to go big, I put a lot of my own money into it that I built up just with traditional means like 401ks. I also owned a stock brokerage business. I was a stockbroker at the time, and I began the process of selling that business too. So, that was something that I'd started from scratch, and I was able to find a buyer, and I used a lot of the money from that to fund Clean Air. But I also did bring in, I don't believe I could have been successful just by myself. I wasn't somebody that was sitting there with millions of dollars and ready to do a venture that required millions of dollars. So I really did have to bootstrap it at some level personally, and then also bring in some small investors, small angel investors. We opted to avoid banks and avoid a large venture capital, early on, and worked with people we knew that were passionate about what we were trying to do, who had a portion of their portfolio that they were willing to take a high risk on.
Wow, that's fantastic. Wow, so no venture capital, but you do have some angel friends and also all of the wealth that you created in your own life to be able to put toward this. Every time I hear about a founder and CEO who puts their own money into something, Kelly, I always know one thing. There's a lot of passion for the idea.
Yeah.
It pains when you lose your own money, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. No, you want to follow owners that have their own money on the line, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed. So what year did you go the franchise route? And was that in your mind in the beginning, or how'd that turn out for you?
Yeah, what we did, we had the one location in Fort Collins in 2006, and then in 2007 we tested it in 10 different locations across the country. And then the people that helped us test those locations, if we were successful, the premise was we would waive their franchise fee in 2008 if it got to that point, and it was successful. And so what we did was we converted many of those people to franchise owners, and some of them are still in the system. And in 2008, we formally set it all up to franchise. So franchise structure is a great way to grow quickly. It obviously spreads capital around. You don't have to come up with it all yourself, and it also just brings in an immediate culture because you're bringing in these very strong personality types when you start building a group of business owners and that minded person.
Absolutely. Franchising is a great option out there to be able to build and expand your business. And so, some franchise owners and owners of companies, they sometimes decide to keep a couple under corporate ownership. Do you still maintain the one in Fort Collins?
We just sold that to a franchise owner about 2 months ago. It's funny you asked that because he, it's kind of my baby, and I'm still letting go of pieces of it. But I'm a customer now, and he owns the business, and I see him every other day probably. He's a great guy, but we go back and forth. Sometimes we have to take back a location just to keep it continuous. Say something comes up with somebody's health or something like that. So we're always ready to own a location if need be, but the primary strategy is just to develop more franchise locations and to support those owners.
That makes a lot of sense. And you brought up something really key, and that is sometimes giving up your baby, the initial location that you created. So I'm curious, on your journey from this founder role to the very successful CEO role, maybe you can share with us a story that you think illustrates one of the significant differences that you've noticed about being the founder and becoming the CEO over time.
I'd say letting go of control was probably the biggest thing I had to learn. I have a personality type where I try to do everything. Developing that ultimate confidence in your team members where you're going to let success and failure ride on them and not try to influence it, because you learn pretty quickly that you start getting in the way or becoming a negative in certain ways. And you get somebody good, put them in a position to succeed, and then you live with what happens, and then you support them accordingly. And that was something it took time to learn.
And so you obviously learned it, Kelly. So was it a hard lesson learned? Was it easy? How was that path to letting go for you?
It was pretty hard, because there's critical moments in a business where everybody says, "Oh, you got a great idea and you're going to succeed," but that's just not how it works. At the end of the day, it comes down to team, and then it comes down to individuals within a team making things happen. And that's the hard part, because it does come down to very specific moments with very, very specific people. And there's going to be success and failure, and you have to, like I said, be prepared for both and accept it and be ready to move in both directions. So that was very difficult to learn, but I do think the biggest business challenge we see even in our model with our franchise owners is learning how to scale a business. And that ultimately just comes back to being able to trust somebody. It's a hard thing to do, but it's very rewarding once you build those systems. You have them in place and you have great people in place, and they're essentially doing something better than you could have.
Oh, Kelly, you just gave me the great idea for my next blog. The link between scaling and trusting. That's huge.
Yeah,
I love that. That's a really great point. I'm so glad you called that out in your own experience. So Kelly, I know that you're very successful, and successful founder and CEOs always show me examples of how self-aware they are. And when we come back from the break, you're going to share with us what you think your biggest business building blind spot is. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Hey, it's Todd. If there's one thing I hear from founding CEOs all the time, it's that you are extremely busy. So my team pulled together 63 productivity hacks from 50 top founding CEOs like you and designed a beautiful PDF for you to get some quick wins getting more productivity from your day and your team. Team management, data management, project management, marketing management tips, and more are in this great guide. So go grab it now on our homepage at FromFounder2CEO.com and just get more done. So we're back from the break, and we are with Kelly. And Kelly is the proud founder and CEO of Clean Air Lawn Care, which is very successful with over 50 franchise. Is it franchisees or ors, Kelly? I always forget how to do that.
Yeah, so we're the franchisor. There's only one, and the rest are franchisees.
Thank you for setting me straight on that. So, you're very successful. And, I just find that successful founder and CEOs typically either they're very self-aware in the beginning or they become more self-aware along their journey. So with that in mind, what do you think is your biggest business building blind spot? And most importantly for other founder and CEOs to hear and learn from, what do you do to make sure it doesn't negatively impact your business?
My biggest blind spot is probably that I under-communicate. I'll say things once, or sometimes I'll just not say things at all when it comes to the team members or franchisees or strategies, board members, whatever. It's something that, would frustrate me. Well, we talked about this. Why isn't this happening? Why don't people understand this? I've had to learn to really figure out how to, communicate things at a very high level and repetitively and keep that message consistent from this group over here to this group over here to this group over here so that you can get the ship moving in the same direction. Because when you take a bunch of business owners that are all independently minded and then you combine it with this kind of a rebellious group we have, when you come into solar powered mowing and organic fertilization lawn care, it's not a traditional mindset. And so we have people that are very fierce spirited, I would say. And it's you just have to keep your message very, very consistent, clear, and simple. And so, we can get the ship, everybody moving in the same direction. That I think is probably the biggest challenge.
Kelly, what I hear from you with all your years of experience are some great wisdom. In real estate, we often talk about the location, right?
Yeah.
But as a founder and CEO, it's about communication,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And, just when you think that you've communicated enough and you feel like you're being repetitive, that's when people are just starting to catch on. Don't you find that?
Yes. Yeah. You just have to keep saying the same consistent things. And I worked for a company called A.G. Edwards that, was around for 100 and some years as a stock brokerage company. It was run by this Edwards family. And this guy, Ben Edwards, he was one of the last family members to run it. He ran it for about 40 years. And he, at the end, he was endeared and loved. And at the end of the day, what he just kept repeating over and over again was the golden rule. Treat somebody like you'd like to be treated yourself. And he basically ran the entire business with that simple premise.
I love it.
The communication, I think, is hard to, you get caught in the reeds and the details and all that.
Well, I can also imagine, just picturing in my mind, all your wonderful people who participate in your company and their passion not only for the environment, but a good-looking lawn. They probably are very high-spirited people.
Yes. Yeah, they're not cubicle people.
Well, so give us a tip. So what's worked well for you from a team development perspective about being able to lead all these really spirited and very, very wonderful people? What have you learned along the way about developing a team that other founder and CEOs might be able to learn from?
I'd say the biggest that I've learned is to invite criticism early and to take it on as a positive thing, because that's what they mean. They want ideas and leadership and strategy from me, but they also want to shoot holes in it. And so when you kind of, when you're that artist piece of you sticks your neck out and is vulnerable when you present something, you have to also be ready to invite the criticism and welcome it, because they mean positive things by it ultimately. And I find when I do that at the beginning, adoption of an idea and the trust in it is elevated pretty quickly.
Kelly, wow, that is very powerful. Are you suggesting that in order to be a very effective CEO, you have to be vulnerable?
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I do think this is my experience for all my fine founder and CEOs who may be in their first or second or third year in running their company and really just trying to keep it going, right? I think you learn along the way that the best stance is always to be open to feedback, open to criticism, because you'll learn and you want to hear those things. Wouldn't you agree?
I would, yeah. I think in the past, early on, I was quick to kind of get defensive or shut down my listening. And really, like I said, the people were just trying to communicate in their own way to me. And if I just would have stayed open-minded about it, it would have ended in nothing but a positive place.
Absolutely. Well, we learn a lot along the way, and sometimes we trip and fall and there are bumps. So I'm wondering, do you have maybe a story of failure that you've experienced along your journey that other founder and CEOs may be able to learn from?
Yeah, I've had, one specific one. I brought in an outside executive that was not from the company or the industry, and that was probably our biggest failure spot that we've had as a company. And it's not because of the individual, it was just kind of an impossible situation for the skills to transfer and all of that. What we learned is it's better to work with the talent within and work with the resources we have and to grow that way versus bringing somebody in cold that has skills that might translate a lot of mights in place. You can eliminate how many variables there are when you take a risk like that. I think it makes a lot of sense. And so as a result of that, back to more of let's develop the talent in the company and rely on the people that are proven to solve higher level problems.
Oh, gosh, Kelly, you are so full of wisdom. I so agree with you. As a matter of fact, it's also one of my favorite topics, and that is this whole idea of bringing in a quote unquote suit, right? That's what some founder and CEOs call them. Their investors call in someone from the outside, and it rarely works unless there's a situation where you have maybe a founder and CEO who is not interested in leading. That's a different story. But all the research suggests, Kelly, that businesses succeed much longer if they're able to retain the original founder and CEO.
Yeah, I can see that. And I've seen that with the businesses that I follow and admire too. If that consistency at the top leads to that successful long-term growth.
Absolutely. Well, so Kelly, you're full of wisdom, and I would love to be able to tap into that wisdom with our rapid resource roundup, where we ask a few questions that really help get into some details about your success. And the first one is this: do you have a favorite trick or technique or software, or maybe it's just an approach that helps increase your productivity?
I drive my wife nuts with this, but any decision I make, I invert it. So if I want to cross the road, the first thing I say is, maybe I should not cross the road. I'll have a great idea, but then I'll turn it upside down and look at it from completely the inside out. And I think that that's led to a lot of good decision making.
Oh, I love that, because it really gets to the heart of why people actually learn debate when they're in high school. Because if you can adopt the other person's argument, then you have a more robust understanding of the problem at hand.
Yep.
Love it. Well, what about a favorite book or movie or maybe a magazine or maybe a different podcast than mine that's helped you in your successful shift from the...
No, I don't know of any other podcasts that are better than this.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yeah.
But in that shift from the founder role to the CEO role, maybe a leadership source that's kind of helped you out.
Yeah, I like the Yvon Chouinard's book, the owner of Patagonia, his book, Let My People Go Surfing. I think that that's a very good resource and fun read.
All right. So no one's brought that up so far. I'll make sure that's in the show notes. I love that.
Yeah.
What about a favorite founder, someone you personally know or someone that you follow that you've looked to for advice or guidance or maybe just inspiration, Kelly? Has there been someone like that?
Yeah, I don't know the person, but Warren Buffett is somebody I admire a lot. Just his humility and his success and his the way his character didn't change over time. He's an amazing story.
He is an amazing story, and maybe even your company will be on the list for him to take a look at.
That would be something one day.
It's not totally unheard of since he seems to always being on a buying spree, but we'll have to wait and see what happens, right? Well, so Kelly, as we head toward the home stretch of the interview, I've got one final thought-provoking question for you. What's one thing that you wished Kelly, the CEO, could have told Kelly, the founder, about building a startup into your sustainable company?
I think the biggest thing I would tell myself is that the startup phase and the people associated with it aren't necessarily going to be the same people that execute the business longer term, and that's okay. This romantic view of, hey, these 5 people started here, and so we're all going to live happily ever after isn't necessarily what's going to happen, and that can be a good thing.
You know, Kelly, after listening to a lot of your answers in this interview, I can't help but think that you're going to have a book someday. Please let me know when you do that, because you have so much wisdom to share, and I'm so excited that we had an opportunity to chat, because I think this interview itself is going to be very impactful for many founder and CEOs. So what's in the future for your company? Where do you, as the CEO, hope to take it?
Well, more of the same. Yeah, we feel like we've established our model really well, and it's time to get on the high end of the growth curve and really, have some fun with it. So that's our plan right now.
Keep growing. I love it. So what's the best way for our listeners to connect with you and learn more about your company?
Yeah, our website's cleanairlawncare.com, and we are available there at any level. I actually don't mind if you contact me personally. It's just Kelly at cleanairlawncare.com, Kelly, and that's our website too, cleanairlawncare.com.
And it's okay if they have an interest in being a franchisee, right?
That's right.
To contact you?
Those people a lot.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we send all those people who are interested in also being a franchisee for your company too, Kelly. We thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your generosity with your time. And we wish you and Clean Air Lawn Care continued success.
Thank you very much, Todd.
Thank you. Hey, founding CEO friends, thanks for taking the time to listen. What'd you think? Did you like the interview? It's my goal to bring you the best tools, tricks, and practical tips to help you be a better leader faster. So send me an email. Let me know what's going on with you, and let me know what I can do to make your leadership life better. Send me a note on our contact page at FromFounder to CEO.com. Now, go do great things.